You've probably clicked on this video thinking Arash overpowered. Most certainly not. I mean, he is the servant who is known for killing himself. So why is that exactly overpowered? Well, he is. Quite, actually. Any farmer that has played the game for any length of time knows that Arash and K-Scope is a match made in heaven. And when it comes to the analysis of any servant, one should start with their skills. But we don't need the first two where we're going. The only worthwhile skill is bow and arrow creation, giving him 20 to 30% Noble Phantasm gauge and a 1 to 3k heal. The secondary effect is also completely useless. It is the MP gauge is what we're looking for. A 20% gauge boost puts Arash in K-Scope range, which is his primary use case, and if you don't have a K-Scope, he's a 1-star, so it's not too hard to sink in the resources to get his skills so you can use it with a limited broken imaginary element. And if you don't have either of those things, tough luck. So what exactly am I hyping up here? Stella. This Noble Phantasm, once upgraded, at MP level 1, does 800% damage, scaling all the way up to 1200% damage. This type of damage is normally found on single target Noble Phantasms. It's that strong. And as a 1-star archer, you can easily get him up to NP5. And even then, he also has an overcharge effect that increases his damage from 0 to 800%, meaning he can hit 2000% damage on an AoE Buster Noble Phantasm. So, what is the detriment to this raw power? Well, he has a 500% chance of killing himself. This is actually a benefit. Arash has apocalyptic damage levels. However, he is still limited by a 1-star stat line. And as such, Stella gives him an easy way out of the fight once he's used his Noble Phantasm, allowing you to bring in another servant from your backline without running Plug Suit. Seeing as you know when Arash will die, which means you can not only play around 4 servants rather than just simply 3, this is incredibly predictable. So you know exactly when this will happen. And another blessing is, again, he's a 1-star. He has a very cheap deployment cost of only 3. Even with a K-Scope, he is still cheaper than a 5-star servant without a craft essence, which should not go understated when it comes to farming. And yeah, sure, Arash isn't going to be clearing challenge quests anytime soon, or any real difficult content, but here's the thing. Though that makes up, 1% of Fate Grand Order content? Arash's use case is what you're going to be doing in-game 90% of the time, at least, and that is farming. Arash is an excellent combination of power, efficiency, effectiveness, and just simply being cost effective in such a tightly knit package that it's honestly kind of absurd. Yeah, he isn't flawless either. You have to get his 3rd skill unlocked through a strengthening quest, which will be beyond most newer players. However, there is one servant I'd like to touch on. If you don't want spoilers about what's happening in JP, this is a good time to pause the video, subscribe, and if you don't, then let us continue. If there is any servant that could be comparable to Arash, it's Qin Gong. This 2-star caster also inflicts massive damage, but also at the cost of instant death. The difference, however, is twofold. First, the Noble Phantasm does more damage than Stella as a pure baseline percentage in both its base damage and its extra damage. It also has one different demerit. It sacrifices one of your other servants, and it cannot be him. This creates an interesting dynamic, given that without his first skill, this is a coin flip. You have a 50-50 shot of killing one of your other servants, which might prove useful. He also, unfortunately, cannot fill up his own gauge. He has a lesser version of Waver's own skill, this time named the Advice of the Strategist, which gives 10% meter, which is not enough to put him in K-scope range. And then his third skill is a degraded version of Hero Creation, thank God, which only provides one term of buffs, and most of it is limited to Berserkers. As Qin cannot use himself as a sacrifice, it makes it clear that Delightworks knows how strong Arash is, and doesn't want a second version of him running around. And this isn't for me to discredit Qin in any way. He is the closest analogy to Arash I can easily discuss, and however, I also do not know much about Qin and how he plays in practice. I don't play on JP myself, so I'm going to have to wait one more year to get a copy of my own. So, what do you think? Is Arash potentially as strong as I claim to be, or am I completely off my rocker? Feel free to discuss and talk about it in the comments below. If you like this video, please subscribe. I'm going to turn out more Fate Grand Order content in the future. However, if you do think Arash isn't as good as I think he is, just letting you know you disagree with our king, Ozymandias.